you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to LaFleur.
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement, et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs!
And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida TV. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, the Sick Podcast on this Tuesday, June 3rd. Thanks for watching, everyone, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. And, of course, the Stanley Cup Final between the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers. A rematch of last year's Stanley Cup Final. Game 1 goes tomorrow night. Looking forward to that. By the way, I got some news for you. I will be in Florida for Game 3. Yeah, but why not? All right, the Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America. Driven to be different. They're a top fleet employer in Canada, by the way, just ask Forbes magazine. Also want to talk to you about Playground. 3 tasty reasons to visit The Rail. Mondays, as of 4 p.m., dive into 2 lobster tails for just $22, served with rice, veggies, garlic, butter, and a warm biscuit. Thursdays from 4 p.m., sink your teeth into their Surf and Turf special, an 8-ounce New York strip with shrimp, fries, and pepper sauce for only $19. And Friday from 11:30 a.m. to 4 p.m., enjoy any burger, sandwich, pizza, or main for just $7. Certain conditions apply. All you need is a valid Playground player's card, and it's free. Deals this good are worth the trip only at the Rail inside the Playground complex. Visit playground.ca for details. And also brought to you in part by those guys right over there in that fridge. That's Bittt to Tibi. And of course, they launched their new Ultra Lager. It's a refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for the summer with only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can, available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. Ultra light, ultra refreshing. Yesterday, there was a press release that was issued, courtesy of Les Olympiques de Gatineau of La Ligue Junior Majeure Maritime. And look what it said. Simon Boisvert est nommé recruteur. Simon Boisvert named scout. Let's read more. The general manager of the Gatineau Olympics, Serge Beausoleil, announced Monday the nomination of Simon Boisvert as scout. Already well known in the field of hockey, Simon Snake Boisvert has worked for several years as a talent scout, notably with the Cape Breton Screaming Eagles and the Val d'Or Foreurs. He's currently the host of the podcast Processus, which covers a large part of the world's top prospects. Boisvert also works with BPM Sport as a hockey specialist, mainly at the junior level. Simon's hiring represents a major addition to our organization. His expertise and experience will benefit the Olympics in the next crucial years of our organization. We're proud to add him to our already strong team of scouts. This coming from their GM, Serge Beausoleil. Without further ado, let's bring him in. They call him the Snake. I call him Serpent. Serpent, what's going on?
Hi, Tony. Doing well, and you?
Extremely well. Let me start by congratulating you. And good. Hard work pays off. And I like to see good things happen to good people. And I know that you're a good person. I'm a little bit disappointed that didn't say in the press release that you're a collaborator on the Sick Podcast. But hey, when you get big, sometimes people forget about the little people. And don't forget about us little people when you end up getting a Stanley Cup ring at some point. At one point, that's the next step, right? To join an NHL team. We'll see.
I'm 59 years old, Tony.
Hey, Rocky's still making movies. I mean,
yeah.
Congrats, man. Congrats. Kidding aside, very happy for you. I would imagine, like, on a couple of occasions, you've told us that you were doing some scouting for an organization, but you were not at liberty to talk about it at that point. Is it safe for me to assume that you've been working for Les Olympiques de Gatineau for quite some time?
Yes.
And what have you been doing for them?
Well, basically what happens is that, as you know, with the rule change this year, more and more American players will join the Canadian Hockey League, basically junior hockey in Canada. So in the past, I've been doing this either as a scout or a consultant, but players didn't come. So I contributed to, my former teams drafting, Jordan Harris, Sean Farrell, Riley Walsh, Scott Morrow, et cetera, Teddy Stiga. But the players didn't come. So it was good for my track record, but it didn't change anything on the ice. However, now we're expecting a flow of American players coming to the QMJHL. The draft is on Friday and Saturday. We're very curious to see. I'm very curious to see how many guys we're going to draft, if they're going to come. But that's my main job. Also helping out with the European draft, which is called the CHL Import Draft, which takes place every year in July. And this year, instead of two players, junior teams will be allowed 3.
Okay.
So that's basically my job.
And seeing as this news was kept confidential in the past, I'm just curious as to why it was made public and made official now.
Well, it's only been a few months. I mean, in the past, I was a consultant with Val d'Or, but I just kept it very casual because at the time in 2014, I was on Twitter. I was on the radio sometimes. I wasn't as active as I am today, with Processus and you and BPM. But still, it was Mathias also had a blog, and I was commenting on it. And at the time, I made a couple of, let's call it nasty comments about some NHL people. And I was told by the team, well, look, we collaborate with the NHL. So you better be careful. So I said to my boss, I said, look, I'm going to continue working for you. I'm going to give you my input, but take me out the official, let's call it roster of scouts, because I want my freedom of speech, because I liked doing this thing. But this time around, they're okay with me continuing Processus and shows like yours. So basically, it was a win-win situation for me.
Good. I'm happy to hear that. Fantastic stuff. So you get to do everything you love and be on different platforms. I think that's amazing. Yeah. I thought about you today for a couple of reasons. One, after reading the press release, obviously, and two is because you have an opinion on something, which is players who had career seasons, who maybe will go on to have better seasons next year, or players who had career seasons that you're expecting a drop in productions, or players that probably didn't meet the expectations, or you're expecting for them to have better seasons next year. So why don't we have that conversation? Of course, we're talking about the Montreal Canadiens and Montreal Canadiens hockey. And where do you want to start?
Well, look, I'll think I have a list here, and I'll just count down the best players according to the points that they got last year. So I think that's an easy way of doing it. So I'll start with Suzuki. Suzuki got 89 points. That was a career season for him. He played very well most of the year, and he's in his prime at age 25, 26 next year. So the question is, will he keep it up? I think he will, because he's in his prime, and also I think the arrival of Demidov will help him. Not in the sense that he will play with him, well, maybe on the power play, but not necessarily on the same line. We don't know yet. Yeah. But I think the fact that he won't have to shoulder the weight of the Canadiens' offense as much as he had to in recent years. So I think it's going to give him some space. And I think Suzuki could have another 89-point season, maybe more. And so I think that will stay the same, but maybe even better.
This is interesting. I want to stay with this. I sent to Shane Gaumont at Master Control, Nick Suzuki's hockey DB, And here you have it. Fantastic, Shane. Thank you very much. If you take a look at his first season, 41 points in 71 games. His second season, 41 points, but in 56 games. There's a progression there. His third season, 61 points in 82 games. His fourth season, 66 points in 82 games. His fifth season, 77 points in 82 games. And this past season, in his sixth season, 89 points in 82 games. Logic says that you're going to be right because Nick Suzuki has gone upward all the time. The only concern that I have, and I could very well see, based on this chart and his stats getting better and better, I could very well see a 100-point season for Nick Suzuki next season. And I think if there's one Montreal Canadien that's going to do it faster than anyone else, have a 100-point season, I believe it will be Suzuki. The only thing I wonder is if the Canadiens go out and get a second-line centerman, if the Canadiens go out and get a second-line winger, and now all of a sudden Nick Suzuki is no longer the second or third most used forward of ice time of any player in the National Hockey League, of any forward in the National Hockey League, and the Canadiens become a less reliant team on Suzuki, at that point, I could actually see a drop. So even though logic dictates, taking a look at his hockey DB, that he actually should improve because he improved every year for the last 6 years, if they go out and get a couple of players for their second line, maybe he'll get less ice time, and maybe he won't have to be on the power play for the final 2 minutes, and maybe he'll produce a little bit less.
Okay. Look, that's a valid point, but I'm going to make a silly prediction about Suzuki. And this is a prediction that we might only get the answer for in many, many years. But I think he's going to beat Phil Kessel's record for the number of consecutive games played. But I know it's a silly prediction because you can get a puck in the face and have a broken nose.
I understand that, but
he's been he never missed a game.
Okay, knock on wood. I hope for him he plays forever. I wouldn't bet on it, and I'm going to tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
He said at the end of the season when they were clearing out their lockers that he had bumps and bruises.
Okay,
he needed time to recover. He hadn't given Hockey Canada an answer in terms of playing in the World Championships. And he actually admitted that if the Canadiens didn't need a win in the final game of the regular season, that he would have taken the game off. Oh. And when he was asked about the Iron Man streak, about it coming to an end, he's I don't really pay attention to that stuff. So if the Canadiens, for example, make the playoffs with 4 games left in the regular season next season, I'd be willing to bet that Nick Suzuki doesn't play the final game. If the standings at that point are determined, and it doesn't matter, the Canadiens don't need to win to actually move up in the standings or whatever, I would bet that he would take the game off.
That's an interesting comment.
Well, but then again, you never know, right? Once again, there's a lot of things that have to happen. They have to be comfortably in the playoff spot, and maybe at that, the game cannot impact anything, because if there's some kind of impact where there's some kind of level of importance to the game, even if they're already in, but you can actually, with a win, you could probably end up playing a weaker opponent or whatever. At that point, he's going to play the game. And you know what? Maybe if he's feeling 100% fresh and he's actually averaged 19 minutes a game throughout the season instead of 22 minutes per game, at that point, you know what? He might play it anyway because he's fresh. But I hope for you that you're right. I'm gonna make a prediction. Okay. And that is that Nick Suzuki will crack the top 10 in Frank J. Selke votes next season. He who finished 13th this season. He'll crack the top 10.
Okay.
By the way, are you you saw the list, I would imagine, for the Frank J. Selke?
Briefly, yeah.
Anyway, I think Shane can dig it up if I'm sure he has it somewhere. But you think Suzuki, there were actually 12 players ahead of him?
It's very hard to tell because that kind of trophy.
Yeah.
There are some very effective defensive players, but they don't get as much attention because they don't score as much.
Yeah.
And more over the years, this award has been given to a player who kind of combines offense and defense. Because I don't know if you're old enough to remember this, Tony, but that award started in the 70s because of Bob Gainey.
Of course.
Bob Gainey was considered an exceptional defensive player, but he didn't have much talent.
He won it 4 times.
Offensively. And that award was created for him. And Bob Gainey at the time did not have impressive numbers. But as the years went on, I think they take into consideration a guy's offense, and to not necessarily to the detriment of his defense, but it weighs a lot in the balance. I mean, look at the names over there: Jack Eichel, Leon Draisaitl.
So Barkov won it for a second year in a row, makes it 3 for him in his career.
Yeah.
Of course, Patrice Bergeron, the great Patrice Bergeron, has won it more times than any other player in the history of the league with 6. Barkov first, Reinhart second, Cirelli third, Hischier fourth, Eichel fifth, Draisaitl 6th, Marner 7th, Kopitar 8th, Hagel 9th, Lowry 10, Stahl 11, Jarvis 12, and we'll end it at Nick Suzuki at 13. Anyway, we're going to we'll stop now. This is a conversation that Craig Button is a regular, usually every Wednesdays, and if all goes well, I think this could be right up his alley. So we'll continue with Craig on that tomorrow. Once again, if all goes well, the Sick Podcast. Who's going to win the Stanley Cup? Is it going to be the Edmonton Oilers, who are slight favorites, or the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, who are back in the final for a 3rd year in a row? Well, go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses. Scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account. Redeem your welcome offer. Offers only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offers not available in Ontario. Must be 18 years of age and older. And please play responsibly. Back to the topic at hand. Players who had great seasons, who can probably end up having even better seasons. Players who had great seasons will probably have a drop-off in the next year or two. Players who had a disappointing season, who you think can have a much better season next season. And you started us off with Montreal Canadiens centerman and leading point getter, Nick Suzuki, who had 89 points. You expect him to do even better next year. Who's next up on your list, Nick?
Cole Caufield, 70 points. I think Cole Caufield now, at the age of 24, has become who he is. He is who he is. He's probably a perennial 35 to 40 goal guy. He's improved his play defensively. He's a little bit more complete this year than he used to be. But do I see a potential for 50? I doubt it. Could happen like one odd year within the next 5-6 years, but I'm saying in general. So I think Caufield will have the same kind of season as he had this year.
Okay, so Caufield, who was second in points for the Montreal Canadiens, their top goal scorer with 37 goals, second in points, of course, with 70 points. You're expecting Cole Caufield to have the same kind of season.
Yeah, pretty much.
Let's bring up the Canadiens' top point getters, maybe half of their roster, right? So Suzuki with 89, Caufield with 70, Lane Hudson at 66 points, Slafkovsky 51, Brendan Gallagher 38, Evans 36. We'll stop it at that point. Who do you have next on your list?
Well, Hudson.
But actually, I want to ask you this.
Yeah.
You expect the same amount of points for Caufield?
Well, points I don't know.
Same amount of goals?
Points I don't know, but what I think is that it's still going to be between 35 and 40 goals. So assists, I don't really know, because we don't know the dynamics of the top 2 lines so far. What's going to happen with Demidov and maybe a possible acquisition from Kent Hughes. But I think in terms of goal scoring, I see Caufield having the same kind of season as this year, and I see the same type of player. This is what I mean. I mean, the season he had this year, I think, is the kind of season that he's going to have next year.
The Corsi was fantastic for the number 1 line of Suzuki, Caufield, and Slafkovsky. The Fenwick was fantastic. The time in the offensive zone. The goals at 5v5. And let's not forget, Caufield gave up some goals when Patrick Laine joined the Montreal Canadiens, or in his first game back from the injury, which I think was on the 2nd of December, versus Patrick Roy's Islanders, and he scored a power play goal. It was, shortly thereafter that, or even at that point, that Laine took Caufield's spot, the office on the off wing on the power play. If Cole Caufield starts on the first wave of the power play from the onset this season, and Patrick Laine is on the second wave, I expect Caufield to hit 40 for sure.
Okay, that's a valid point, but because it is true that Liney took some points off Cole Caufield because they were kind of like, like duplicates. So, okay, I get it. I'm not arguing.
I can't wait to see if Lane Hutson is one of the players you're going to tackle here, because you're obviously very outspoken about Lane throughout the season. I don't have to remind you some of the things you said, but at one point you were humble enough to say, you know what? May have got it wrong with this guy. You know what? This guy's probably better than I thought. And you know what? I tip my hat to this player. It takes a big man to say that. And you said that at one point this season. So,
yeah, I think, I don't know if his goal scoring will improve, but I think his point totals will improve. He had 66 points. He could, go beyond 70, I think, this year with one more year of experience. He was a rookie last year. In terms of his play, you could tell that defensively after the Four Nations Cup, he became much better than he was early in the year. So I think that'll stay the same. I think he's not bad defensively.
There's something that we have to consider as well, right? Once you get to the Four Nations tourney, you're out of it, and you're give or take around the 20th of February.
Yeah.
Where you have probably about 8 weeks of hockey left. Mm-hmm. So you've played already 2/3 or 3/4 of the season. So you've accumulated experience, reps, minutes. You've made some mistakes and learned from them. And also, it also coincided with the fact that you're able to have a breather for a couple of weeks, take a break, and recharge the batteries. Like for me, and I've said this before, yes, I was amazed with the season that Lane Hutson had. Yes, I was amazed with the points that he had. Yes, I was amazed with the assist that he had. But one of the things I found that was most amazing was that when everyone talked about Lane Hutson, they talked about load management. And they brought up examples of Leo Carlson. Like, I would have never predicted that Lane Hutson would have played all 82 games in the regular season and averaged about 22.47 or something like that. I'm going off of memory. And then averaged 24.50 of ice time in the playoffs, even with Mike Matheson for the most used Montreal Canadiens player in the playoffs. Like, I would have bet the house that on several occasions the Canadiens would have gone load management with Lane Hutson. That shocked me.
That would have been logical because he's a smallish player, and usually smallish players they hit the wall at some point because they get tired more easily, which is just biological.
Will he change the way you scout? Will he change your opinion of small players the next time you're going to see one? Or no, because he's probably the exception?
Yeah, exactly. Because I like to play probability. So the next time I see, there's always small players every year. Okay. There's a guy right now, he's 5'7" in the USHL, Adam Benek. I mean, the guy is everything. If he were 6 foot tall, he would be a top 5, top 10 pick. So he might just be chosen in the second round. So no, it doesn't change the fact that for one Hudson, there's 100 guys who don't make it or, just become American Hockey League players. Now, one might say, yeah, but Hudson has more talent than the regular small guy. That is correct. But it's still a unicorn, if you know what I mean.
Well, every now and then, a smaller guy comes around, and he ends up being special because, if they end up having a good career, they end up having a great career. If they, because they end up being phenoms. Yeah, and Marty St. Louis.
For someone who does a lot of scouting and watches a lot of young players, the floor is littered with smallish players who don't make it. But we don't talk about these guys. So at some point, if you make a prediction about that type of player, there's a possibility that you're going to be wrong once in a while.
Let's take a look at Hudson's stats. Pardon me. Let's take a look at Hudson's stats. Pardon me, Snake. His stats. All right, okay. You talked about you could probably get a few more assists than the 60 that he had, which already tied an NHL record for rookie defenseman, tying Larry Murphy, who did it in the early 80s. He had 6 goals, and you said, I don't know if he's going to get more goals. Okay. He doesn't have a shot. But if I know this kid, the way I know this kid, working on his shot will be a huge point of emphasis all off season. And I'm going to say it right now. He'll hit double digits in goals next season.
Okay.
I mean, if that number is going to be 10 or if it's going to be 18,
yeah,
I don't know.
He could make it to 10, but remember, Quinn Hughes also worked on his shot, and it's not like his goal scoring has really, really improved, because at some point there are limitations to what you can improve, even though you're a hard worker. Now, my only question mark is how other teams will adjust to him. Obviously, in the playoffs, Washington was really going at him, and sometimes you could see that he was hurt by some of the hits that he got.
With all due respect, can I, and I didn't really pay attention to this before I brought it up, if I can just interrupt here for a second and bring something up. Quinn Hughes played 5 games to start his NHL career and didn't have any goals. And the next season, he had 8 goals in 68 games, and which is obviously 2 goals better in 14 less games than Hutson. And the year after had 3 goals in 56, and the year after had 8 in 76, and the year after had 7 in 78. In the last 2 seasons, Quinn Hughes a year ago had 17 goals in 82 games. And this past season, he had 16 goals in 68 games.
But it took quite a few years.
It took about 7 years into his National Hockey League career.
So let's be patient.
6 years. Yeah, 5 and 6 years.
Yeah, let's be patient.
Okay, good.
Next, Slafkovsky, 51 points on the top line.
Yeah.
3rd season. I know he's only 20. I think some people were a little bit disappointed that he didn't make as much progress, because he had really progressed in the second half of his 2nd season. So we were kind of expecting more, especially the opportunities that he has.
Mm-hmm.
And I know he can be an important part of a line because of his physical attributes and stuff. And I'm not denying it. But again, expectations can be very high for a number 1 pick, although the 2022 draft was a little bit hard to predict.
Yeah.
And who knows who will come out, which forward will come out as a superstar. We haven't seen any yet. Slafkovsky next year is probably the hardest guy to predict, because I think it's kind of a make it or break it type of year. I mean, the 4th season of a player, even though the guy is only 21, I think at some point you have to see what he's becoming. So if he has another season like this one, I think this is pretty much the guy that he'll be. If you look at, past references, if you other guys, other similar players who started at the age of 18, and usually 4th season is a breakout season. So I don't know if it's going to be a breakout season. Maybe it will be.
Wow, this is you and I are on a different page, and I'm going to tell you why. So far, we've covered Suzuki, Caufield, Lane Hutson, and Slafkovsky. And this is the beauty of sports, that everyone's got an opinion. You believe that Slafkovsky is probably the hardest to predict. I think that Slafkovsky out of the bunch is the easiest to predict, and I'll have to tell you why.
Right. Tell me.
So in his first season in the National Hockey League, he picked up 10 points in a shortened season due to injury.
Yeah.
He's trying to figure things out. Obviously, he's not big enough. He's not strong enough. There's a balance issue. And like a lot of big athletic players, unfortunately, he's got his head down a little bit too much, because he's probably relied on his size and his athleticism for most of his career. Now, all of a sudden, he's going up against the guys who are just as big, just as strong, even stronger, even faster, in a game that's faster. He's got to make some adjustments. Perfect. Yeah. Tries to work on that in the offseason, doing, drills with virtual reality and the cameras and stuff like that. Improves that, gets tagged a lot less, and boom, has an amazing second half of his season and finishes with 50 points. This year, the line does extremely well. They have the most goals scored of any line in the National Hockey League at 5v5. And he finishes with 1 more point, 3 less games. And maybe it's not the increase that a lot of people would have seen, but he had a back injury in the offseason. He showed up to camp, not at 100%, at a step behind, did not have a good preseason, and of course, did not have a good 3 or 4 months. And now, with all the emphasis being put on this guy needs to have a better start, and not to mention that now he's really going to be pushed, because at the very least, there's Ivan Demidov, who's another winger, who some members of the fan base and maybe even some members of the organization are saying, hold on a second. At one point, we got to give this guy his shot with Suzuki and Caufield. And they can't do it now because the first line had such a great season. But if he's not alert and he's not at his best, all of a sudden he can end up losing that. Now, some will say, yeah, but the big contract kicks in and you know what? He might get complacent. Well, the big contract kicks in, and maybe this guy, if he's a proud player the way we think he is going to say, I want to play up to the contract. Long story short, the power play is going to be better. The depth on the team is going to be better. If ever he gets put on the second line, he'll be playing with better players next year, you would think, than he's played in the past. He's in his 4th season. He's accumulated the experience. Hopefully he doesn't suffer an injury in the offseason. I think Slafkovsky is going to get minimum 60 points next year. And if I'm wrong, well, then delete the video.
Well, I have I have a question for you, Tony. Okay, since to me he's kind of very hard to predict in my book. Do you agree with me or not that Slafkovsky's next season, whether it's good, bad, or average, will kind of define what he's going to be in for the rest of his career?
I'm not so sure I'm willing to say that at 21 years of age.
Okay. Even if the guy's in his 4th season? Would be interesting to look at other star players who started out at the age of 18 and what happened to them at the age of 21. Would be a nice little homework.
Okay, I'm going to bring up John Leclerc, who, yes, I'm going to preface it by saying played with one of the most dominant players in the history of the league.
Yeah.
And played on a lethal line and played when goals were up in the National Hockey. I get all of that. Okay.
Yeah.
And I get the fact that he also entered the National Hockey League at the age of 21 and not at the age of 18. Okay. So I'm prefacing all of this and getting it out of the way.
Yes.
John Leclerc early on in his career, a couple of seasons in, had a real amazing playoffs for the Canadiens when they won the Cup in 93.
Yeah.
But he scored 51 goals in 96, and he played his first game in 1991.
Okay.
And then he had 50 after, 51, 43, 40.
Yeah.
I think Slafkovsky has the talent
to
be a notch better than John Leclerc. Now, he's probably not going to have the fortune of playing on the same kind of line or in the same kind of hockey as John Leclerc. But big guys, it tends to take them a little bit longer. So I would say if the rule of thumb for you is 4 years for most hockey players, I would say if you take a big guy who needs to make certain adjustments and takes a while before the compressor starts rolling, I would say it'll be 6 for them.
Yeah, but
just my opinion.
Leclerc was traded. What would have happened had he stayed with the Habs? We'll never know. But he was traded.
He would not. The chances are he would not have put up the numbers that he put up.
Well, who knows? Because the Canadiens were really.
But I think Slafkovsky already. We saw this year played on a dominant line. Slafkovsky's centerman finished 7th among all centermen in the National Hockey League in points.
Yeah.
And we started this off by saying that you think that he can hit 100 points, and I said he can too.
Because what you have to analyze also with a player is that you have to look at his strengths and weaknesses, and you have to see if the strengths can become much better or if the weaknesses can be improved. So that's how you have to analyze players and say, okay, this guy right now, that's what his strengths are. Can he be even better? And you look at the weaknesses and you say, okay, can this be not necessarily improved by a mile, but at least controlled or and look, I'm not sure about Slafkovsky. It's very, very hard for me to evaluate this guy.
Okay, in 60 seconds if we can, and then we're gonna end this thing right here. Okay.
Yeah.
We've gone through Suzuki, we've gone through Caufield, we've gone through Lane Hutson, we've gone through Slafkovsky.
Yeah.
For most the top 4 players on this team. Okay.
Yeah.
And so far I've heard they're either going to be the same or get better. Yeah. Which I think is good news for the Montreal Canadiens going into next season. Is there one player that you think will have a drop-off in production?
Well, production, I think Jake Evans, not necessarily in the game that he plays, because he's mostly a defensive guy who plays on the PK, and he's very good at it. But I think offensively, he won't have like the surge that he had last year. That's my prediction.
Okay.
And Brendan Gallagher, 21 goals. You never know with this guy. He's so hardworking. He's everyone thought that you left him for dead, and he keeps producing. I would think it could slightly go down, but I wouldn't bet against him.
So if their core players are going to have as good a season or better, and their depth players might drop, that's better news than the other way around.
Yeah, of course. It's always better to have Caufield scoring 42 goals than Jake Evans dropping from 36 points to 25 points.
Snake, this, of course, will go in our library on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere. And in the end, if you're right, you can cut up the clips and you can splash them everywhere. And if I'm right, I could do the same thing. And if I'm wrong, like I said, we'll throw it in the garbage. Congratulations once again on officially being named a scout with the Olympic. That gets, you're very passionate about what you do. You're very opinionated, and you're the kind of person I like, so much so that I even put your name on a shirt. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, Tony.
Ciao. There you have it, Snake Boisvert. Marinaro, special thanks to all of our sponsors. And of course, Energy Transportation Group is one. Playground and the Rail is another. La Bittt at Tibi and Betway as well. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple. It's our way of feeling the love. For Shane Gaumont and Master Control, thanks for watching, everyone. We'll be back tomorrow night. Same time, same place. The Sick Podcast. He's the Snake. I'm Marinaro.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaVie.tv, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.